So at the time we're recording this, I'm going to preface this for when this is released and everything. But the time we recorded this segment, it hasn't even been a full 24 hours, you could say, since The Weeknd's latest album just came out. And it's debuted like number one on the global Spotify charts. A couple of the songs are definitely up there. I think like in the top 20 or something like that. So it's kind of insane. I mean, we're kind of familiar with The Weeknd's impact just based off of his last album, but this album is like a whole other dimension. And here to talk about it with me, I have the one and only Mr. Nick Alley again, who I've had on the podcast before. So welcome back to Nick.
Hey, oh, sorry. Hey, my computer froze for a hot second, so I'm like,
there you go.
But now, hey.
Exactly. Hey.
Yeah, hit him with the sup.
Sup. And then we also have Miss Lovely Jen Gordon over here, who's a first timer to On Rotation. So Jen, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Hey.
Sup.
Sup. I really don't know how to approach this album, first off, because it's just, when I listened to it, it was just like, is The Weeknd dying? Or is he like predicting death? I don't know if you guys got that, but with this whole like Dawn FM thing, like he basically is creating this like own radio station platform based just looking off the title itself. But then when you listen to like what he's singing about and talking about, he's like kind of, and even like the album cover, I'm like, okay, is he like trying to tell us something? You know, that's just like on first impression. So please feel free to fill in the gaps.
I can fill you in. I didn't know if I didn't want to jump on Jen's parade. So I love like The Weeknd in general. So like was super excited for when he announced it right off the bat. And like I went digging a little bit, and the whole like point of the album is to be like a sense of what you'd hear if you were in like the purgatory range of like dying, like you were just saying, and like waiting to find out like the fate of whatever. This is the music that he's like, okay, I'm in like a mushed up state where I'm like, what am I even listening to? Or like, right. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I find that so funky as like a concept of just like you're listening to the radio station of basically your mindless mind just floating and waiting for purgatory of just whatever's happening to you. So I think it's funky. I don't know. I can go on to things, but yeah, I think that's the direction that he was going for.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's an interesting direction. I don't know. Like I wouldn't, like if I was an artist, I would never have thought to have done that. So I think that just shows how smart he is. And like, even marketing wise, if you were to do like something like his music videos, I feel like they all kind of could like go with each other, if that makes sense. Like, no, I try to see like the aesthetic of things, and I think music videos play a huge role in how people are playing and listening to the music, so they can envision it how it's happening. So I hope he puts out like a series of more music videos for it. I think he only has 2. Could be wrong.
Yeah. Well, he did that for his last album actually. Like all of the videos he put out were like part of the same story, like had the same character and things like that. And something else I want to mention too early on is like the evolution of The Weeknd as an artist, and we kind of touched upon this before we started recording, is that this is so far from where he came. Like he came from like mixtape culture. He was pretty well like known in the underground realm, and then he like has a couple albums that break out, like Beauty Behind the Madness and like Starboy, and like he's made this shift to like pop global stardom. It's crazy. Like but he's still like in his very much own lane, as we've kind of mentioned too, with the direction on Dawn FM.
They ask me if I do this every day. I say often.
There it is.
No, I fully. I was thinking about that after a few listens of the album in general, because it's been interesting just seeing like, you know, he still is able to like mess around with a bunch of different genres, and like you said, he's evolved a lot, but like he's never lost that like vibe of what he was ever going for, right? Like he's always had that like mysterious kind of persona around him, darkness, levels of it, are ideas of like drugs, fame, addiction. This specific album has been such a it's a feat for me to see him get to this level in his career.
And I looked back too at his discography, and I think this is technically his fifth like studio album, because Trilogy was like a collection of his 3 mixtapes that he like first put out, and then he has like a couple other projects I think here or there that like are EPs or other mixtapes or something like that. So this is like a proper, like, you can make the argument like every project is like perfectly like or properly researched, produced, organized, whatever. But like a proper like studio album is different than like a mixtape or an EP or something. Like this is something that he obviously put a lot of work and dedication into.
Oh yeah. And I just love that he created something as opposed like he's very consistent with that whenever he develops like a persona or whatever the vibe is for each album. He's always very consistent on the artistry, the imagery that goes along with it. And I think it shows just as a pop star now. I think it's 78 million monthly listeners on Spotify, which is like in the top echelon of
I think he
like
just
artists.
topped 80 like today.
Yeah. And like only like so many artists have done it. He's moving on to stadiums too now. Like he just switches it from arenas to stadiums, which is a huge monumental step in an artist's career. So like it's great that I'm loving all these things, and to be so consistent with albums of just like putting hits after hits. Like he's got such a huge discography now, and it's so great to see like so much of it evolve over time, like you're saying.
I think every album is better displayed, I guess if you say, in a concert sense. So I'm really, because he was supposed to play TD, and I'm really glad he's moving up to a bigger stadium, just because I feel like what he's doing now with this album and like the vision he's kind of going for fits better in a stadium sense.
Yeah.
You know? So I can like see him having like in a stadium size, obviously the stage is bigger, but like having it split and having like stories to tell in like intermissions, or what's not the word, not intermissions. What am I trying to think of? Not, is it interludes, I guess? Like,
yeah, I would say an interlude,
yeah,
like in between, like while he's getting ready.
Yeah, like having stories to tell,
yeah,
like
the transitions. Yeah,
exactly. I think that'd be sick if he did that. He might, but that'd be sick.
Well, it's funny, like thinking about those exact word, like I said, transitions. This album's transitions, literally, my note says transitions on fleek. It's like every single song goes into the next, like it blends. Like I fucking love when albums do that, and I think we're seeing that become more of a trend and like more of music that's released recently. And I just, The Weeknd, like again, he just he hit it nail on the head. It was just so good at these transitions.
Oh, 100%. And like I think you can tell, like obviously if you, for those who haven't listened, it's very, again, 80s inspired, which he was already going into, right? But like it's even more into that, like listening to like deep dark club music when you're like going into like the basement type of party, and like it's almost like vaporwave at some points. And it's so crazy to me because he has like such a myriad of different like people over the years, right? Like he's used to be like all these crazy like dark performer producers, and now he's working with like Max Martin, Swedish House Mafia, Calvin Harris, 10 Tricks Point Never, like all these people who are just like, who wouldn't normally, I mean, Max Martin's Max Martin, but like just like the magic that they've created over time is just absolutely phenomenal. And like the fact that they can work together and know the vision that they're creating by able to do transitions like that, I mean, there's, like I said, nobody else that can do it like him.
His songs kind of remind, have you seen those like edits on YouTube where it's like you're at a party and you're in the bathroom kissing someone, this is what's playing in the background, but and then they'll like make it like slow and like loud bumping. And that's kind of how I feel with some of his songs. Like that kind of, to like put that kind of like experience in perspective, that's kind of what I get.
Another one of my notes literally says he'll have us singing, dancing, and crying at the same time.
As every album should be. I like the combo. I'm like, I love when they have like they're happy, like let's go clubbing, and then like moments where you just want to like stare into the abyss and cry. Like, I think every album needs that.
Yeah, I think he does all three, like you're just saying. What were you gonna say, David? Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, you're good. Let's get into like some of the tracks specifically. I think for me, some of the ones that I like stood out in terms of like the theme of this being, you know, your purgatory playlist, as we'll call it. Like Out of Time, which kind of the name implies itself, was like really pivotal track, and depicts like this whole thing about you're almost out of time. Like this narrator comes on and is like, but don't worry, we're gonna like serenade you and you're gonna be fine and blah blah blah. And like it's such a weird thing. And another like a couple other ones too, like I just want to throw out, and I'll get you guys' thoughts on them too. Every Angel is Terrifying, amazing. I thought that was so cool. And then the end track, Phantom Regret too, also just perfectly like sums it all up. So that's where I'm gonna start. I'm gonna open up the floor now and let you guys chime in wherever you want.
Yeah. I mean, I mean, every track on there, there's always a little something like I go back and discover like, oh, I like this a little bit more, or, like see that there's whatever. But you know, I think like just those opening tracks, there's a few of those like running tracks, like you're just like Dawn FM starts the album, but it's more of like this, like almost like an interlude, just like getting you ready, almost like a skit. Same thing. Jim Carrey's all over the place with those transitions too, just throughout the entire album, which I think is so cool because, like, of all people, Jim Carrey, of course. Why wouldn't you? You know, they bonded over being neighbors in Toronto and the fact that they had telescopes and they would like say,
Really?
"Hey, yeah."
What?
Isn't that crazy?
Like
That's
when
how
they were
got-
famous, right? Like obviously when they were famous, like not like grew up together.
Right. Exactly.
Okay, I just had to like
They-
clarify. I thought that it was.
No, they both have
Like
telescopes.
two worlds,
They
different
wave to each
worlds.
other. It's funny. But yeah, that's how they got acquainted apparently, and that's how like this whole like idea was started. So
That's so
sick.
funny.
yeah, so and that's why like again like you have those little things, and I think so. Gasoline starts off like the first real record of like the actual or the first real track off the record, I should say, and like
Mhm.
right from the get go, you're like, what the is this actually his voice? Like his voice is
Mm.
so deep compared to what we're used to from the Weeknd, which and it's just like it gets you. Like I love it's like it's 5 a.m. like type of repeated lyricism in that. It's super dark. And I just like love that it still has a little bit of like the regular Weeknd in it at the chorus part, but it's just like that's where like I'm like, okay, this is gonna be a wild ride right from there.
Yeah. Oh, is it my turn? Sorry.
Yeah.
You're like pausing, so I can't tell, but I still think that my favorite's One at a Time. Or not One at a Time. Hello. Out of Time. Out.
Oh yeah.
It's the Tito's. Out of Time is my favorite.
It's the Tito's. I love so another thing, like so are you guys familiar with like city pop at all?
Little bit, I think.
So that's like the whole emphasis of that song is a sampled version of the track. I don't have it off the top of my head, but it's a sample. And it's city pop is generally like derived from like Japanese type of style where like you're literally walking through a city, and that's what they envision as the type of music that you'd play while you're like out and about. And I'm like, oh, this is like perfect for like dark night. Like it might be raining. I'm with my significant other, just walking through the streets, like shopping. Like it's so like great. And like I that's definitely one of my top 3 tracks, by the way.
It's so funny you mentioned that because I was listening to the album last night when I was walking from the train to my apartment from work. And I think it was How Do I Make You Love Me that came on. And I just started like strutting. Like I kid you not. I was like, this is like strutting music. Like exactly like what Nick you're saying, like walking around when it's dark out. Like another artist that I feel like does that really well that I think the Weeknd kind of bleeds into is Majid Jordan or Majid Jordan, however people pronounce it.
Oh wow.
Where it's like like I
Yeah.
agree with like all that. I'm glad you brought that up. Like it really builds that aesthetic. And I think the Weeknd is to me still like this enigma of this person that like low-key doesn't even exist. I'm just like, who even is the Weeknd? He's not real. He's just a robot making music. Like
I was watching his Super Bowl performance last year and was like, I felt like that, not like in a robotic, like that's a fake performance.
I think the first half. Oh, sorry. I just cut you off because I was cut off.
No, it's fine. I thought I was cutting you off.
Technology, it's fine.
Oh no, you're good.
That's fine.
It's fine. I think the first half of the album is your like like we were saying, like those bangers, like Let's Go, like Rage for the Evening, like great. And then once you hit that out of time, you're like, okay, we're slowing it down a little bit. We're coming back from the bar, like the club, whatever, and we're like getting into like the zone. Then you have a few other slower tracks where we're featuring like people like Tyler the Creator, Lil Wayne mixing up totally crazy in today's world that like you have both of those people on a track, or not on one separate track, but obviously I don't know if there's any specific tracks between those that you guys want to chat about, but in addition to Gasoline and Out of Time, I gotta say Less Than Zero just blows me away. Like it is so good. First of all, before I even get into Less Than Zero, like just the rollout for the album too. I don't know if you guys followed it, but like, holy crap! Like, how great was it? Just like announced it on Monday, drops it on Friday.
Yep.
And like he has this cool Amazon event, and Less Than Zero is the last song that he plays, and it's just like uproarious. Like it's such a pop song for the weekend. It's crazy to me, but I could see it like on radio stations for the summer. I could see it at weddings. I could see it everywhere, and it just like it fills me with so much joy. And I haven't heard a song like that in a while.
I remember listening to it earlier today, and I kind of like paused. I don't know if it was because I had nothing else to do and I was just sitting at that point and listening, but I think a lot of times, like, you think of an album having that moment where it just like everything stops and you're like, this is the song that's like the climax, or the one that, like, if you were to tell people what represents the whole album, it's this one. And I think Less Than Zero, based off what you said, Nick, could probably be that song.
Yes, basically that's what I was getting at, is I can see it. I agree in the pivotal point of it. I think it's a great way to end the album sonically. And then, like you said, you have the Phantom Regret by Jim, who just like really nails the emphasis of what the whole concept of the album is, which it also rhymes crazy. It like really screws my head, but like I just find it so it's just so happy for the Weeknd, dude. And he's never been like that for so long, or not been like that. He's obviously played with like certain songs that are like poppier, but this is like full on let's go pop. Like that bridge, are you kidding me? That bridge just soars. It's crazy.
You guys are so much better at describing music than I am. I'm like, oh, I like this song because I like the sounds. You guys are like, so you guys are like so like expressive. You were like, this part of the song like had me here, and they got you're better at it.
Jen's like, I don't want to compete with these.
But that's what I mean. You just talk about what you're doing.
No, I like hearing how you guys describe it, because I feel like it changes the way that I go listen to it afterwards. You know, I'm like, oh, they're right. So I don't know.
Well, there's something else too that there's something else too that Nick brought up that I also kind of caught with this pattern of you know, like the album kind of splits at one point. I marked it as like, you know, after Here We Go Again with Tyler the Creator, it starts to like slow down, or it like changes like a whole dynamic. The energy just kind of darkens a little bit, but also slows down. But like also there was a couple of tracks where I feel like it was almost like a call and answer in a way, because I remember listening to some of them and being like, this sounds like an earlier track, or like the way like specific things on it reminded me of an earlier track, and I like went back and listened to some. So I'm like, there's kind of like these couplets, at least what I saw, like sonically, that is. And I thought like Don't Break My Heart and How Do I Make You Love Me sounded kind of similar as like this call and answer, like this couplet, like I mentioned. And then also this other track that Nick touched upon, I Heard You're Married, kind of also reminded me of Out of Time, or sounded like similar. I think it was like something with like the guitars or like the drums or some specific instrument that was like, these songs sound like they go together, but they're not. Like they're different, but they are like, I don't know, there's something about it. I was like, I feel like these are like intertwined somehow. So call me crazy, or just completely disagree with me, or benefit my, or like entertain the idea, whatever you want.
No, I was saying that I mean, there's producers all over it. I mean, they're very similar, like we were talking about, but I just find it funny that like you're saying, like it sounds like it all meshes in together, despite it not also being the same, if that is what you're getting.
Yeah, exactly.
I think that's also what I find funny about that track specifically is it's the lone Calvin Harris production track on the album with Lil Wayne and The Weeknd, which is like an anomaly. Like if you told me they would all be on a track together in like 2011, like I'd be like, what the fuck? But
Yeah.
now it's like we're in 2022.
I feel like anything
God.
happened though musically in this year. Everyone's like back then we'd be like, that could never happen. But now we're like, yep, see it. I personally never thought I would see Jim Carrey as part of an album. Maybe
That's true.
Yeah, seriously. I think it really pays homage to, Michael Jackson more than it already has been, like his entire career. He's just doing it in his own deep, dark way. But, he's got a lot of different influences on the album. So I love it. I can't say enough nice things about it. I think it for a pop record to do what he's doing is just mind-boggling to me, because like he didn't have to, like, it was already gonna be tough to come back from After Hours, but it was he really just jumped full into the 80s and almost vaporwave type of sound.
You might say he's dawning a new era.
Hey.
I had that written down as a potential title for the written review, so I might have a little bit prepared for that. But just had to.
He just dropped a teaser on everybody. He was like, "Go check out my blog."
I have to.
Mm-hmm.
Nick, that's actually has he ever said directly that Michael Jackson was an influence? I feel like that's somewhere.
It's pretty heavily implied. I think if you go back to Trilogy, actually, he does a awesome, crazy cover of Dirty Diana, which is like the first inkling of like his Michael Jackson homage. And then obviously once he like hits like pop stratosphere, he's doing like Can't Feel My Face, I think is like pretty spot on Michael Jackson. I Feel It Coming, just like even Blinding Lights, maybe I'm trying to, like, there's always a little bit something in it, just a little bit, but he's always been doing his own little mesh of, let's add a little bit R&B, let's add a little bit more rap. Like, he's always been a little bit more Weeknd, obviously, because that's the artist, but he always, I find it that he has a lot of different 80s types of influence, especially for Michael Jackson in his heyday. So, and I think this album specifically is just Michael Jackson, Depeche Mode, Daft Punk, like all over the place.
Yeah, kind of representing all the different artists he's worked with too. Oh, what'd you say, Jen?
Oh no, I said Nick loves his Daft Punk. So.
Oh yeah.
Oh, I miss them.
Yeah, they were a good one. Any like final thoughts or anything else that stood out? We haven't really I know Jen's like just taking it in a different lens, but Jen, what other like impressions did you get just based off of what you heard?
I feel like I need to listen more in depth, to be honest, because I think like when I first listened to an album, I just listened to it just to like check it out, but I haven't gone around to like actually listening to it a second time and just being like, okay, I'm not as musically attentive the first time around when listening to an album, just because again, like I think I'm just trying to like listen to it, see what the overall vibe is, and then give it a second time to like absorb what he's trying to say in the song, and then in what met, like, again, not like message, but
yeah,
definitely.
I think he like the like lyrical content is definitely not stuff we're unfamiliar with The Weeknd. It is a lot about like love and loss and like complicated, can I get that word out for a second, complicated relationships, and like, as we said, like the whole theme is kind of being on your deathbed and like on your way out, but like you might still have some unresolved things to take care of, so now's kind of the time to like work through them.
Yeah. Yep. No, I feel that. I think just in general, I think it was a risky project because I don't think it's going to be for everybody.
I've been seeing some things on TikTok of people being like, I don't like it because they like don't see him in that kind of like 80s like vibe. I think people still wanted him to stay like in that R&B kind of style, but I think he's killing it with
right
one, honestly. But that's just like a personal opinion. You can't expect everyone to like it, but I think it's great.
Right. I mean, you're damned if you stay in the same sonic genre / change your whole life in it. You're also damned if you switch it up. So like, you might as well fucking just do whatever you're gonna do.
I agree.
You know. So
Mhm.
yeah,
And he
and
is
also TikTok.
and he is like an artist that's
So-
gonna do that regardless, because he just kicks ass and takes names.
Mhm. Exactly.
Truly, definitely. There's not anyone doing it like him. And if anything, people are trying to copy him. I mean, After Hours just blew up the whole 80s revival this decade.
Mhm.
So you can
Mhm,
see a bunch of different types of music and whatnot. So
Period.
we'll see what happens the rest of the decade. I'd love to see him continuing influencing into the rest of the decade and see what he can do. So
Yeah, totally. Well, Nick and Jen, thank you so much for coming on and doing this. I appreciate you sharing your in-depth and your overviews, I'll say, because we got kind of both of this album.
yes, thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate
Yeah.
you.
All right, everybody. Dawn FM by The Weeknd. It's out now. Give it some listens. Let us know what you think. Go check it out.
Mm-hmm.
Do some
Please.
TikTok trends, maybe.
Yeah.
Make Less
Like a
Than
dance.
Zero a single. So
Mm.
help me God. That's going to be the biggest song in the universe.
If Nick is wrong, he's gonna be mad.
I'm not going to be wrong. I'm going to go to Republic and yell at them to make that
Are
song.
you? Are you?
I will.
Yeah.
I know where they are.
Nick is gonna have his own version of "Where Is the Album." He's gonna.
I am.
We need
outside
it.
waiting for Less Than Zero to be.
With your sign, yes, I could see it.
Just walking in
Mm.
circles around, and everyone's gonna be like, "Not
With
this
a
again."
bullhorn too. I bet Nick Alley has a bullhorn somewhere.
I literally have one.
Yeah.
Right up.
Yep.
It actually has a bottle opener, to be honest, attached to it.
Oh my
Jesus.
god. Please send pics when you do that. I think the world needs to know.
I will.
Dude with a sign, but it's just Nick outside Republic. Nick, you blow up.
What am I doing?
Go outside Republic. You follow Dude with a Sign on Instagram, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, just do that, but outside Republic, and then you'll blow the fuck up. I just know it. Do
Yeah, I'm sure they'll be great for the music career, but
Oh yeah.
Well,
we'll
there's
see.
other
Maybe it actually is. I don't know.
there's other labels out there, you know. You don't have to be friends with all of them, just one of them.
Hey, you gotta do some crazy stuff in industry, right?
Yeah, that's fair.